I grew up in Hendersonville, North Carolina, a small mountain town where the mist rolls thick between the trees and the night feels like it has weight. Most people who live here keep their curtains drawn after dark. They don't talk about the things they've heard in the woods, the footsteps without bodies, the voices that mimic people you love. I always thought those stories were just small-town folklore. Then we invited something in. It was last November, during that strange stretch of days when the temperature drops too fast and the air feels thin. My friends, Taylor and Jenna, came over to my house after school. We were bored, restless, looking for something to break the kind of silence that makes you aware of yourself breathing. Taylor brought the Ouija board. Not a new one. This one looked old. The wood was darkened, edges carved by hand, symbols etched into corners I didn't recognize. The planchette was heavy, like it was made of bone instead of wood. Taylor claimed she found it in her family's barn, wrapped in oilcloth beneath an old trunk her grandfather had left behind. We sat on the floor in my living room. The lights were dim, the fireplace was low. The house was too quiet. I lit a candle. We placed our fingers on the planchette. I didn't want to be the one to start, but silence is pressure. It demands to be filled. "Is anyone here?" I whispered. Nothing happened. Jenna laughed under her breath. "See? Just a board." The planchette twitched. We all froze. Then it moved. Slow, dragging, like something waking up. Y-E-S. Taylor's smile dropped. Jenna's hand trembled. My mouth went dry. "Who are you?" I asked, instantly regretting it. The board responded faster this time. N-O-T-I-M-P-O-R-T-A-N-T. A chill slid across my shoulders like fingertips. "What do you want?" Taylor asked. The planchette moved smoothly, almost eagerly. T-O-B inside. The fire popped sharply, sending a spray of sparks up the chimney. The flame dimmed, then stretched sideways, as if something passed between us and the fire. Jenna's voice shook. "What do you want?" The planchette didn't hesitate. Y-O-U. I pulled my hands away. "Stop. We're done. Goodbye." The planchette jerked back to the center. N-O. The house changed in that moment. The air thickened, heavy. Breathing became difficult, like the atmosphere itself was pressing against us. The shadows on the walls stretched long and slow, as if something behind them was pushing outward, waiting to take shape. The candle flame bent, flattening nearly to the wick. Then we heard footsteps upstairs, slow, measured, like someone pacing across the hallway. We were the only ones home. Taylor squeezed my hand. Her skin felt cold. Jenna whispered, "It's just the house settling." But the footsteps didn't settle. They came downstairs. One step, another, deliberate. We didn't move, didn't breathe. The planchette slid again. "Don't look." Taylor stood up anyway. The footsteps stopped, right behind her. The silence that followed was the kind that fills your ears and chest. Dense, unmoving, wrong. Taylor's hair lifted, just slightly, like something brushed past her. She gasped, stumbled back, hitting the wall. I forced the planchette to goodbye. I don't think I moved it by myself. I think something let go. The room released. The shadows shrank. The air thinned. But something had already come through. We felt it. We still feel it. That night we slept together in my room because none of us wanted to be alone. We didn't talk. We listened. At 3:12 a.m., my bedroom door opened. Slowly, silently, something stood in the doorway. No shape, no face, just a darker patch of darkness, watching us, not moving, not leaving. We never used the board again. We buried it near the creek behind my house. We didn't talk about it. People always say experiences like that fade, that time dulls memory. But time only sharpens what it can't explain, because every night, around the same time, I hear footsteps in the hallway, soft and patient. And sometimes the doorknob turns, just enough to let me know it's still here. We invited something, and it never left.
I grew up in Benton Harbor, Michigan, a place where the lake wind howls louder than any traffic, and the shoreline fog can swallow whole streets. The kind of town where people keep their heads down after dark and pretend not to hear what they hear. My house sits near the edge of town, close enough to see Lake Michigan from the back porch when the air is clear. I used to think the quiet here was peaceful, and now I know better. It happened on a Friday night in early December, the kind of cold where your breath turns solid the moment you step outside. My buddy Marcus came over to hang out, drink a few beers, and complain about work. We'd been friends since high school, both of us too stubborn to leave town like everyone else. He brought the Ouija board. Said he found it in his grandmother's basement, wrapped in a pillowcase like someone was trying to hide it. It wasn't one of those cheap cardboard ones. They don't stay smooth like that. This one was carved, dark wood with a finish that looked more like age than polish. The planchette was heavier than it should have been. We set it up in my living room. Just one lap on, the furnace rattling like it always does when the weather turns. The rest of the house was still. Marcus set his fingers on the planchette first. Come on, man. You gotta touch it too. I sighed and joined him. Felt stupid. Felt bored. Is anyone here? Marcus asked. Nothing happened at first. The furnace clanked again. The lamp flickered the way it always does when the heat kicks in. The wind scraped along the siding. Then the planchette moved. Not a nudge, not hesitation. Y-E-S. My mouth went dry. Marcus laughed nervously. Okay, maybe it works. He leaned in. Who are you? The planchette glided smoothly. F-R-I-E-N-D. I felt a cold shift in the room, like something else had entered. Something waiting. Yeah, no, I muttered, lifting my fingers. We're not doing this. Marcus shot me a look. Come on, if it's fake, then what's the problem? I didn't answer, because I didn't know. He placed my fingers back on the planchette. What do you want? He asked. The board moved faster now. W-A-T-C-H, then Y-O-U. A soft knock sounded from the front door. Not loud, not urgent. 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Marcus froze. Someone's here. No one's here, I whispered. We both listened. Nothing moved beyond the door. No footsteps, no voices, no shifting of weight on the porch boards. Just silence. Maybe a package? Marcus said. At 9:30 at night? Another knock. Knock, knock, knock. The exact same rhythm. My chest tightened. Don't open the door. Marcus wiped his palms on his jeans. Dude, it's probably just... But the Ouija board moved again. Don't. The room felt colder. The lamp flickered again, too much this time. The shadows stretched too far, like they were leaning in. Another knock. But this time, it came from the back door, then the side door, then the window. Knock, knock, knock. All in the same rhythm. "Spirits don't knock," I whispered. Marcus swallowed. "Good spirits don't knock 3 times. We forced the planchette to goodbye, pushing through resistance like we were dragging it through mud. The knocks stopped. The air released. The room warmed. We sat there for a long time, listening for anything else. Neither of us suggested opening a door. Neither of us looked outside. When Marcus left, I watched him walk to his car. The night was still. Too still. He texted me 20 minutes later. Something followed me home. It knocked on my bedroom window 3 times. I haven't touched the Ouija board since. But every once in a while, late enough that the house has gone quiet, I hear it. On the wall next to me. Knock, knock, knock. Just waiting to see if I'll open the door. And I know better now.
I live in Ely, Nevada, a mining town where the desert stretches out forever and the wind sounds like it's carrying whispers. People here say the land remembers things, buried things. The old miners swore the tunnels were haunted, and kids in school dared each other to go out near the abandoned shafts at night. I never believed any of it. Not until the night I heard the voice. It was early January, one of those bitter cold nights where the frost on the windows looks like hands pressing from the outside. My best friend Riley came over because she didn't want to stay home alone. Her parents were fighting again, and my house, quiet, empty except for me, felt safer. We were bored. We'd watched 2 movies, done face masks, listened to music, and then she saw the Ouija board on my bookshelf. It had belonged to my mother. She used it once when I was 11. She never touched it again. I don't remember what happened that night, only that she cried afterward. She told me never to use it. Ever. But memories fade, and curiosity crawls. So we set the board on the kitchen table. The only light came from the small lamp by the sink, a soft yellow glow that didn't quite reach the corners of the room. Outside, the wind rattled the windows like something was trying to get in. Riley put her fingers on the planchette and looked at me. "Ready?" I took a breath and nodded. "Is anyone here with us?" she asked. The planchette didn't move. The fridge hummed. The house settled. The wind hissed. Then slowly the planchette slid to Y-E-S. My throat dried instantly. Riley smiled nervously. "Okay, who are you?" The board paused. Then it spelled A-R-F-R-I-E-N-D. I felt something shift in the air. A weight. A presence. Not warmth. Not cold. Just a feeling of being watched. Riley leaned forward. "What do you want?" The planchette moved faster now. T-O-T-A-L-K. I swallowed. "What about?" The planchette stopped. Then it spelled H-E-R. I stared at Riley. She frowned.
Me? She whispered. The board moved before we touched it again. No, you. My heart pounded. The voice didn't come from the board. It came from behind me. Soft, whispered, too close to be real. I know what you did. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. Riley grabbed my arm. Lena, don't look behind you. But I did. There was no one there. Just the doorway to the living room. Dark, open, watching. The planchette began to move without us. S, H, E, D, I, E, D, B, E, C, A, U, S, O, V, Y, O, U. My blood ran cold. No, I whispered, no, that's not. Riley looked at me, confusion turning slowly into horror. Lena, what is it talking about? I couldn't speak. The voice whispered again, inside my ear this time. You left her alone. I collapsed forward, my hands gripping the table. Tears blurred my vision. My mother had died in a car accident when I was 16, but she had called me, begged me to come pick her up from the bar. I ignored the call. She drove herself. The guilt has lived inside me like a second heartbeat. I had never told anyone, not even Riley. The board kept moving. S, H, E, W, A, N, T, S, U, T, L, I, S, T, E, N. The wind slammed against the house. The light flickered. The corners of the room darkened like something was filling them. Riley whispered, Lena, we need to stop. Say goodbye. Say it now. But the board didn't let go. The planchette dragged our fingers wherever it wanted, wild and jerking. S, H, E, I, S, T, I, L, H, E, R, E, Y, A, T, C, H, I, N, G. The lights went out. Pitch black. I felt breath against my ear, warm and familiar. My mother's voice. I never left you. Something touched my hair. I screamed. The lights flicked back on. The board was still. The air was normal. Riley was pale and shaking. We said goodbye, out loud, over and over, until the planchette loosened. Riley never came back to my house after that night. And I haven't slept a full night since, because sometimes when the house goes quiet and the wind dies, I hear her voice again. Not angry, not accusing, just whispering, "You're still mine."
I live in Frostproof, Florida, which is a funny name for a town that still gets cold enough at night to make the orange groves crack and whisper. It's a quiet place, one gas station, one diner, and a lake with water so still it looks like glass. People here don't talk about ghosts, but they believe in them. You can tell by the way they close curtains before sunset. I used to think all of that was old superstition. Then we used the Ouija board. It was my cousin Eli who brought it over. He'd been helping clear out an old farmhouse just outside town, the kind of place where wallpaper peels in long strips and every step stirs up dust that smells like time. He found the board in the attic, wrapped in a piece of burlap, tucked into a wooden box lined with salt. That should have been the warning. But we were bored,
Two grown men acting like kids because the night was too quiet and the beer was cheap. We set the board down on my coffee table. The lights were dim, the ceiling fan ticking like an old clock, and the cicadas outside had gone strangely silent. Eli laughed and said, "Let's see if anything wants to chat." I should have said no, but I rested my fingers on the planchette anyway. Eli asked, "Is anyone here with us?" The planchette didn't move at first. Then it slid, slow, heavy, purposeful. Y-E-S. Eli looked at me. "You moved it." I didn't. We both waited. The planchette moved again. H-E-L-L-O. My mouth felt dry. The air in the room felt thick, like humidity without heat. Eli grinned nervously. "Okay, then. Who are you?" The board paused. Then, not a name. I felt something shift inside the room. Not a sound, not movement, just presence. Eli swallowed. "What do we call you?" The planchette stopped dead center, then dragged sharply to the left. "Don't." Then say. Then it. I felt a cold pulse in the room, like something exhaled. Eli chuckled uneasily. "So it has a name?" I whispered, "Don't." But he'd already asked, "Is your name here on the board?" The planchette slid faster now. Yes. Something creaked behind us, the sound of footsteps on wood. My house only has one hallway, and it was dark. I didn't want to look. Eli leaned in, eyes bright with the thrill of it. "Which letter does your name start with?" The planchette shot to a single letter, O, then to another, N, then another, C. I didn't speak, didn't think, didn't breathe. Then the board moved slowly, like it was savoring the moment. E. The candle on the table went out. The hallway behind us went cold. The shadows on the walls stretched long, long, too long, like something tall was standing just out of sight, reaching for us. The board spelled one final word, H-E-R-E. Eli whispered, "What the hell do we do?" The air felt dense, not like fog, but like being underwater. I couldn't move, couldn't turn around, couldn't look. "Say goodbye," I whispered. "Say it now." We forced the planchette to goodbye. It fought us. Something resisted, but we forced it. The room broke open like a held breath released. Temperature normalized. Air tasted like air again. We didn't look down the hallway. We didn't speak. Eli left without finishing his drink, but the board stayed. I tried to throw it in the lake the next morning. I watched it sink. When I came home, it was on my kitchen table. I tried to burn it. The wood blackened, but didn't char. I buried it in the orange grove. The soil shook under my hands like something moving beneath it. Now, some night, around 3:04 a.m., I hear footsteps in the hallway, slow, heavy, measured. Sometimes I hear breathing behind me, warm and close, like someone is leaning in, waiting. And sometimes, when the house is so quiet, it feels like the world has stopped. I hear my name whispered in a voice that is almost mine. Never say its name out loud.
When I moved to New Haven, Connecticut, I didn't expect the house to feel so heavy. It was a two-story colonial on the outskirts of town, shaded by old oaks whose branches scraped the windows when the wind blew. I moved there with my boyfriend Grant, hoping for a new start. Quiet mornings, coffee on the porch, a life that felt grounded. But the house had its own history, one it didn't want us to forget. We found the Ouija board on the first day. It was in the basement, tucked behind a stack of dusty paint cans. The board was old, not like the flimsy ones they sell in toy stores. It was wood, dark and worn, the letters carved deep. The planchette sat next to it, smooth, rounded, polished by use. Someone had put it there with intention. I should have left it where it was, but curiosity is louder than caution, especially when you're trying to prove the world is simple and rational. Grant laughed when he saw it. "Looks antique, could be worth something." I didn't laugh. The basement was cold. The kind of cold that doesn't belong to temperature, like you've walked into someone else's breath. We carried the box upstairs anyway. For a week, we didn't touch it. We worked, unpacked, argued over where the sofa should go. Life found a rhythm. But at night, when the house settled and the wind slid through the trees, I could feel it. The board was waiting. It was a rainy Saturday when we finally decided to use it. We had wine, too much wine, and there's a kind of intoxicated bravery that makes ghosts feel like a party game. We lit a candle and placed the board on the coffee table. The flame flickered, even though there was no draft. The house was quiet. Too quiet, like all the sound had been swallowed. We placed our fingertips on the planchette. "Is anyone here?" Grant said, grinning like he expected disappointment. The planchette didn't move. I exhaled, relieved, and was about to say we should put everything away. But then it slid. Slow, smooth, like a hand guiding it. Y-E-S. Grant's smile faded. "Okay. Who are you?" The planchette paused. Then S-T-A-I-R-S. My stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" I whispered. The planchette moved again. D-O-W-N-S-T-A-I-R-S. The basement. Just hearing the word made the room colder. Grant tried to laugh. "Maybe it means where it came from." But I was staring at the basement door. It was cracked open just enough to see darkness. The flame flickered. The planchette moved again. W-A-T-C-H-I-N-G. The lights flickered overhead. The boards in the walls creaked, not settling, but shifting, like footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming up the stairs. I whispered, "Say goodbye." Grant didn't move. I said, "Say goodbye," louder, panic tightening my voice. His lips parted, but no sound came out. The footsteps stopped at the top of the stairs. The basement door creaked open a few inches more. Grant finally pushed the planchette to "goodbye." The candle blew out. The room dropped into darkness. I don't remember standing. I don't remember grabbing Grant's hand. I just remember us running, out the door, across the yard, barefoot in the rain. We didn't go back inside until morning. The house felt normal in daylight, quiet, ordinary, harmless, except the basement door was open, and the Ouija board was sitting on the top step. We tried to get rid of it. We burned it. The wood blackened. The planchette cracked. But the next morning, the board was back on the coffee table. Perfect. Unmarked. Waiting. Grant doesn't talk about it anymore. He sleeps with headphones in, says I'm letting the house get to me. But I hear it. The footsteps. Every night. Coming up the stairs. Stopping outside our bedroom. Waiting. The board was in the basement when we moved in, and whatever came with it never left.
I've lived in Banff, Alberta my whole life. Tourists come here to photograph mountains and elk like their postcards come to life. But those of us who stay past the season know Banff differently. The forests are older than the roads. The wind moves strangely between the peaks, and sometimes the shadows don't match the bodies that cast them. I used to dismiss that as mountain myth. Then the Ouija board told me something I still can't say without shaking. It was late December, cold enough that the breath from your lungs freezes in your beard. My roommate Devin and I were stuck in my apartment above a small gear shop on Bear Street. Wind was howling through town, rattling the windows hard enough to shiver the glass. We'd been drinking just enough to get nostalgic, and Devin found the Ouija board my sister gave me as a joke 2 Christmases ago. "We should ask who haunts this place," he laughed. "Old Banff was built on bones." I didn't want to. I swear I didn't. But boredom is a heavy thing. We sat cross-legged on the floor. The only light came from the street lamp outside, glowing pale orange through frost-coated glass. The mountains outside were just shapes in the dark. We placed our fingers on the planchette. "Is anyone here?" Devin asked. At first, nothing. Just the wind and the faint buzz of the refrigerator. Then it moved. Y-E-S. My heart kicked hard in my chest. "You moved it," I muttered. Devin held up his hands. "Nope." The planchette kept sliding, slow and deliberate. H-E-L-L-O. The room felt colder. Not like temperature, like something else entered the space. Devin grinned, trying to play it off. "Who are you?" The planchette glided. M-E. I frowned. "That's not a name." The board stilled for a moment, then spelled again. Y-O-U. I looked at Devin. "It's screwing with us." But the next message came fast. Too fast. Faster than either of us could push it even if we were trying. "I am you." A sinking feeling opened in my chest. Heavy. Wrong. Devin whispered, "Ask it what it means." I didn't want to, but something in the room felt like it was waiting. So I asked, "What do you look like?" The planchette stopped. The apartment went silent. Even the wind seemed to pause. Then the planchette began to move. "I am wearing your face." My breath left me. Devin's hand jerked back. "Okay, nope, we're done." We tried to move the planchette to goodbye, but it resisted, hard, like forcing something through thick mud. The lights flickered. The shadows on the wall shifted. And then something stepped into the doorway of the kitchen. It was me. Same height, same build, same hair, same clothes. But the face was wrong. The smile too wide, the eyes too dark, like someone wearing a mask that almost fit.
"Devin?" I whispered. He stared, frozen, pale as frost. "Ben? Don't move." The thing tilted its head, slow and jerky, like it was learning how. Then it smiled wider. I forced the planchette to goodbye with both hands, shoving it so hard that the board scraped across the floor. The room exhaled all at once. The kitchen doorway was empty. The apartment was silent. We didn't speak. We didn't clean up the board. We slept with the lights on, backs pressed to opposite walls, waiting for dawn. I thought maybe we imagined it. Maybe panic made shadows into shapes. But the next morning, when I went into the bathroom to wash my face, I froze. In the mirror, I was standing just slightly differently than I really was. Just a second out of sync, like the reflection was waiting for me to catch up. And then it smiled, and I didn't. I've avoided mirrors since. Covered every reflective surface in the apartment. Devin moved out 2 weeks later and won't answer my messages. But some nights, when I pass a window or glance at the dark screen of my phone, I see something move just behind my reflection, smiling, wearing my face, and waiting to be let in.
I moved to Marion, North Carolina last autumn, one of those small mountain towns where fog holds to the hills like it has nowhere else to go. People here nod politely, but don't speak much. The air smells like pine and chimney smoke, and the nights are so quiet you can hear your thoughts, whether you want to or not. I thought the silence would be peaceful. It isn't. The house I rented is old, built in the 1930s, all original floors and crooked door frames. The landlord called it historic, which is another way of saying it remembers things. I started noticing odd sounds within the first week. Soft tapping, scratching. Always at night. Always on the first floor, even when I was the only one awake. I told myself it was mice, or branches against the siding. Something ordinary. Then, my sister Molly came to visit for the weekend, and everything changed. We were drinking wine on the living room floor, talking about childhood things, ghost stories, scary dares, the stuff you grow out of but still remember like a bruise. Molly laughed and said, "Do you still have that old Ouija board we used to mess around with?" I did. It was packed away in a box I hadn't opened in years. I don't know why I kept it. Nostalgia, maybe. Or maybe it never left me. Either way, I got it. The board was chipped at the edges, its letters faded but readable. The planchette was scuffed from being dragged across the wood too many times. We set it on the coffee table. The lamp above us flickered just once, but enough to make my breath catch. We placed our fingertips lightly on the planchette. "Is anyone here with us?" Molly asked. Nothing happened. The silence stretched. Then the planchette twitched. We looked at each other. It moved again. Y, E, S. My pulse hammered in my throat. Molly whispered, "Who are you?" The planchette didn't move to letters. It slid to the top edge of the board and stopped. Then it began scratching. Not sliding. Scratching. The wooden tip dragged against the board in short, sharp strokes. We just watched it, frozen, breath shallow, as the planchette carved a mark into the wood. The scratching stopped. Slowly, the planchette moved back to the letters B, E, L, O, W. A chill moved across the room, though the air was still. Below? What? I whispered. The planchette moved again. Y, O, U. Molly's face went pale. It's talking about the basement. I shook my head. The basement's empty. But I knew that wasn't true. I'd heard footsteps down there. Soft, slow, dragging. When I was upstairs, I'd blamed the house settling. Now I wasn't so sure. The board moved again. Fast this time. N, O, T, E, M, P, T, Y. The lights flickered twice, then steadied. The floor beneath us creaked, not like settling, like weight shifting, coming upward. I could hear it now. The scratching, not from the board, but from under the floorboards, right beneath where we sat. Scritch, scritch, scritch. Something was trying to come up. Molly grabbed my arm. Say goodbye now, we tried. We forced the planchette towards goodbye, but halfway there it stopped, like something held it. The scratching below us grew louder. Then a knock from under the floorboards. Molly choked. Emily, please. I shoved the planchette with both hands, slamming it to goodbye. The scratching stopped. The house went silent. Not peaceful. Listening. We didn't speak for the rest of the night. We didn't sleep either. Molly left the next morning. Said she'd call. She didn't. The house has been different since then. The floorboards creaked in steady, deliberate rhythms. Sometimes I hear breathing when I walk down the hallway. And now, every night just after 2:14 a.m., the scratching starts again. Right below where I'm sitting. I've stopped answering it. But I know it's waiting for me to ask another question. Waiting for me to put my fingers back on the planchette. Waiting for me to let it come up.
I grew up in Revelstoke, British Columbia. The kind of mountain town where winter feels endless and the snow settles into every quiet space. Tourists come for skiing and photos, but the locals know the forests hold their own rules. The nights are darker here, thick, heavy, as if the mountains lean in close to listen. I never believed the stories older folks told about spirits in the pines, not until the night we asked for a sign. It was late February. The sky bruised purple with a snowstorm rolling in. My friend Holly had come over after her shift at the Lodge Cafe. We'd grown up together, gone to the same school, walked the same trails, but Holly always kept one foot in the world of superstitions and whispers. She brought the Ouija board with her, an old one from the thrift shop downtown, the box worn and the ink faded like it had been used too many times. We sat on the living room floor at my cabin just outside town. The only light came from a single candle on the coffee table. Outside, the wind rattled against the windows, pushing loose snow across the glass like fingers. Holly placed her fingertips lightly on the planchette. "Just for fun," she said. "No big deal." But I felt uneasy, like the air around us was waiting. Still, I joined her. "Is anyone here?" The planchette didn't move. My shoulders loosened. Relief came fast and warm. Then it slid. Y, E, S. My breath caught. Holly's expression shifted. Not fear exactly, but fascination. "Who are you?" she asked. The board paused. Then spelled, slowly dragging the letters out. B, E, L, O, W. A draft crawled across the floor, cold enough to bite my ankles. The cabin was insulated. The heat was on,
but the air felt like it came from deep underground. Holly leaned closer. Where below? The planchette glided. F-O-R-E-S-T. A branch scraped the window, long, dragging, like something heavy was leaning against it. I swallowed. What do you want? The planchette moved faster now. T-O-B-S-E-E-N. The wind outside went silent. No rattling, no shifting snow, just stillness. Holly's voice dropped to barely more than a breath. Should we ask it to show itself? No, I said, immediately, too quickly, too loudly. Holly looked at me, eyebrows raised. Why not? But before I could answer, the planchette slid again. A, S, K. And Holly did. Give us a sign. The candle extinguished. The room fell black. Not dim. The kind of black where you lose your sense of space, where you can't tell if your eyes are open or shut. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. Something moved in the kitchen. Not footsteps, a shift of weight, a slow inhale, the kind of sound a person makes when standing behind you. Holly, I whispered, don't move. My voice didn't sound like mine. She squeezed my hand, cold, shaking. The room filled with a smell. Pine, wet soil, rot. Like something had come in from deep in the woods and brought the forest with it. A creak sounded from the hallway, then another, then tap. On the wall behind us, then another tap, closer. Something was in the room, something listening. The candle flickered back to life, just enough light to see the hallway, and something standing in it. Tall, thin, outlined in shadow. No face, just darkness in the shape of a person. The planchette scraped across the board on its own. H-E-R-E. Holly choked breath. Say goodbye. Say goodbye. Say goodbye. We forced the planchette to goodbye, shoving it so hard it nearly snapped in half. The figure didn't vanish all at once. It just folded backward into the hallway, like slipping behind a curtain made of dark. The cabin lights came back to life. The wind returned. The air warmed, but the smell of pine and soil lingered. We didn't sleep that night. Holly left town a week later, moved in with her sister in Vancouver. She said she couldn't stay somewhere the forest felt like it was watching. I stayed. And now, sometimes, just before snow falls, I see footprints in the tree line behind the cabin. Not animal, not mine. Just one set, facing the house. Because we asked for a sign. And it's still giving us one.
I grew up in Pocatello, Idaho, the kind of place where everyone knows your last name, and the wind always seems to carry the smell of rain. The town sits low in a valley, surrounded by hills that look purple at dusk. Most nights are quiet here, almost too quiet, like the silence is watching. I used to love that silence. Not anymore. The night this happened, I was 17. My best friend Jess and I were having a sleepover at her house. Her parents were gone for the weekend, and she lived in one of those old craftsman houses where the floors creak even when no one is walking. We made popcorn, watched bad horror movies, and laughed until our stomachs hurt. Then Jess said, "Let's try the Ouija board." She said it like a joke, like it was harmless, like we hadn't grown up hearing stories about people in our town who swore something moved in their houses at night. I didn't want to, but I wanted to seem unbothered, confident,
strong. So we lit 3 tea candles and placed the board on her bedroom floor. Her room felt colder than the rest of the house, though the heat was still running. The shadows stretched long on the carpet. Even the air felt heavy. We placed our fingertips on the planchette. Jess whispered, half laughing, "Is anyone here with us?" Nothing happened. The wind pressed against the windows. The house made its usual settling noises. I started to relax. Then the planchette nudged, just a little. I thought Jess moved it, but her eyes were already wide. The planchette slid to Y-E-S. My throat tightened. Jess's voice shook. "Who are you?" The planchette moved slowly, like it wanted us to feel every letter. S-A-R-A-H. We looked at each other. It was my name. I tried to laugh. "Funny." Jess pulled her hands away. "I didn't do that. I swear, Sarah, I didn't." The board moved on its own now, planchette gliding without fingers. D-O-N-T-L-E-A-V-E-M-E. A cold shiver slid down my back. It felt like the room was shrinking, like something was curling around us. Jess whispered, "Ask it where it is." I didn't want to, but something in the room wanted me to. "Where are you?" I asked. The candle flames flickered. The board answered. H-E-R-E. A sound came from the hallway. A soft dragging, like bare feet sliding on carpet. Jess grabbed my hand, nails digging into my palm. "Say goodbye. Say it now." I forced the planchette toward goodbye. It snapped back to the center. Not moved, snapped, like something else was holding it. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. Jess tried, voice shaking. "Goodbye. We're saying goodbye now." The planchette scraped across the wood. N-O. The dragging steps came closer, slow, deliberate, right outside her bedroom door. The doorknob began to turn. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. My entire body felt frozen except for my heartbeat hammering so hard I thought it would break me open. The door creaked open a few inches. There was no one there, but the hallway behind it was darker than it should have been. Dark like water, dark like sleep. Jess screamed. I don't remember grabbing the board. I don't remember running. I just remember us stumbling into the kitchen, breathless, shaking, and throwing the board into the sink like it was burning us. Jess turned on the faucet. The board shouldn't have burned, but the wood blackened. The letters bled into darkness, and the planchette cracked. We slept with every light in the house on. The next morning, when Jess's parents came home, the board was gone from the sink. No ashes, no burn marks, nothing, like it had never been there. But that night, when I got home, I found the planchette on my pillow. I still don't know how it got into my house. And sometimes, late at night, when the wind stops and the house goes silent, I hear someone say my name. Soft, close, like she never said goodbye. Because she didn't.
I moved back to Cody, Wyoming last year after my mom passed. I'd been living in Denver for almost 8 years, trying to be someone who didn't come from a town where the biggest landmark is a taxidermy museum. But grief has a way of calling you home, whether you want it to or not. The house I grew up in felt smaller, quieter, like it was waiting for something. Maybe it was waiting for me. I found the Ouija board in the attic about a month after I moved back. It was tucked behind a stack of old Christmas decorations, wrapped in a dusty pillowcase. I recognized it instantly. It had belonged to my mom. She used to joke that it was just a conversation piece, but I remembered how she always made sure it stayed put away. Always. The board was older than I remembered. Dark wood, smooth from age, the letters carved deep. The planchette felt cold when I touched it. Too cold. I didn't use it right away. I didn't want to use it. But some nights, the house was so quiet, it felt like it was pressing against me. The kind of quiet that makes your heart beat too loud. That's when I took the board to the kitchen table. I turned on the lights. Nothing happened. I asked if anyone was there. I tried to remember how my friends and I used to do this back in high school. Still, nothing. Frustrated, I turned off the lights to go to bed, and that's when I heard it. Tap, right on the board, like a fingernail on wood. I froze in the doorway. Another tap. Then the planchette slid half an inch across the board. My skin tightened like it was crawling off me. I sat back down. "I'm here," I whispered. The planchette moved. H-E-L-L-O. My throat closed. My hands were shaking, but I kept going. "Who are you?" The answer came slow, careful, like someone spelling a word they hadn't said in a long time. M-O-M. My vision blurred with tears. I wanted to believe it. God, I wanted to. But something inside me stayed still, watching. "What do you want?" I asked. The planchette didn't hesitate this time. T-U-N-R-O-F-T-H-E-L-I-G-H-T-S. The kitchen light was still on. The only reason the board had moved was because the hall behind me was pitch black. My mom was terrified of the dark. She used to leave night lights in every room. "No," I whispered. "Not until you tell me something only my mom would know." The planchette stopped. The air in the room felt heavy enough to choke on. Then it moved, slow, dragging as though forcing itself across the board. T-H-E-B-A-C-D-O-O-R. I frowned. "What about it?" I asked. The planchette moved again. D-O-N-T-O-P-E-N-I-T. My heart stuttered. The back door was behind me. The doorknob was turning. Not fast, not aggressive, just a slow, deliberate twist. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. The planchette kept spelling. N-O-T-M. The doorknob stopped. Then, knock. Soft. Too soft. Like someone didn't want to wake the neighbors. My voice came out as a whisper. "What is it?" The board answered. D-O-N-T-L-O-O-K. The knock came again, closer this time, like someone leaned their head against the door. I closed my eyes, and I sat there, frozen, listening to something breathe on the other side of the wood. It stayed there for almost 5 minutes. Then, silence.
When I finally turned the lights on, the planchette snapped in half, just cracked down the center. I threw the board in the attic. I closed the door. I locked it. But sometimes, after midnight, when the house gets too quiet, the lights flicker out, and I hear it. Tap, tap, tap. The board only works in the dark, and something in this house wants me to turn the lights off.